Hi everyone, Makozi Racing International salutes you. Welcome back to another stream of the Lewis Hamilton Time Trial Challenge. This is part 7, and it's been a while since the last stream. This is because I had to take a small break and go to attend the FI prize giving ceremony that was held in Paris last weekend. At the prize giving ceremony, that's where all the champions of the racing competitions that they've had in the 2019 season in motorsport were celebrated, and me being the champion of the FI Motorsports Games, I got the honor of receiving my Digital Cup first place trophy once again. Sorry, not trophy, gold medal in Paris for that event. So yeah, I was away for a few days, but I got home pretty recently. So now I'm back on the simulator, got on the seat warmed up, and yeah, for part 7 of the Time Trial Challenge with the Maestro of Gran Turismo Lewis Hamilton, we're going to be looking at Dragon Trail Seaside. So I believe this is the first of the fictional tracks that we're having a more in-depth look at. And it's going to be interesting to see how well we can do there. You can see we're entering the Time Trial Challenge. You can see Lewis there on the left. We're going to go right ahead here and enter Seaside. And you can see Lewis's fastest lap on the left is a 37.094. We beat him in the very first part with a 36.6. So we were going faster by about half a second, but looking at the top 10 leaderboards, you can just see the friend rankings immediately. We're a second off the first guy, at least. So looking at the top 10 and comparing the first driver, which is TRL Heaven, to our time, is about 1.1 seconds off. So it's quite a significant margin on a lap as short as this. It's a 1 minute 35 second lap, so it means that we've got a lot of pace missing in that first attempt, so we're going to try and look for that now. And before we actually get into it, I'm just going to set traction control on 0 and yeah, have a look at Lewis's lap and have a nice in-depth analysis of how he approached his hot lap here at Dragon Trail Seaside. So I'm going to let this one go by itself in head cam, and then we'll have a closer look at it. And hi iRacer, welcome to the stream. Okay, so that was Lewis's lap. Now we're going to put that bit by bit, see how he gets each corner. Yeah, hi Fabro, I'm doing fine, thank you. Just got back recently from the FI prize giving 2019 ceremony that was held in Paris. And yeah, it was great to go there and have a really good experience and receive my gold medal for winning the Digital Cup in the FI Motorsports Games. Yeah, just gotten home quite recently, still settling in a bit, but we're back on the rig and we'll back at this, trying to beat Lewis Hamilton once again. Try and get ourselves up onto the top 10 leaderboard. So, coming into this first part, I'm going to play it through pretty much through the first chicane and this small first right-hander. Okay, so coming into the lap, you want to make sure that you have a very wide entry on that previous corner that you just passed, if you can do that, if you can pull it off, and make sure that you keep your car to the left. If you have to go back to the left after passing the start-finish line, you're just taking a longer line, and that's always going to lose time. And it's just one of those small things. But that's something that you need to look out for when you're going on for a fast lap. So as you can see, Lewis actually puts the car back onto the left side of the track, and once again, like I said, I'm emphasizing this is what loses thousands on a lap. If you're on the right side, you want to try and go to the left as less as possible if you can already do a flat out corner. But if you have to, try to be as early as possible on the left before you start your lap. Let's come into this fast right. There's really not much to it. You don't want to use the grass on the right with your inside tires. You don't want to go too much over the curb just to unsettle the car, because any small change in balance is going to take off speed no matter what you do. So yeah, putting two tires on the curb, like Lewis has done here, that's pretty much a really 100% fail-safe approach. You just go like that with your right tires on it. You're cutting a bit of the track, you're shortening the distance that you have to take to get to the first chicane, and yeah, that's pretty much it to it. Nothing too special. So coming into the first chicane, you see, Lewis actually takes off the acceleration before he applies the brake, and he uses the 150 meter board here on the right as his braking reference. Now, I've heard that he likes chase cam, so he uses that most of the time. So if you're using chase cam, try and position yourself to start braking right as soon as the 150 meter board sign disappears off your screen. If you're using bumper cam, like I do, look out for this start of red asphalt on the right. Maybe if you brake a little bit after that, that's a good reference, a good point to start braking. And maybe try and keep it a bit more to the right. Lewis has done it fine in this case, but if you really want to optimize your entry, you want to keep a bit more on the right. And yeah, we'll see how it goes now into this first left. See, he's braking towards the right hand side of the track before getting on the curb, and he's already got full brake input on by the time this curb starts on the right. So you want to get your brakes on hard early so you can get the car stopped, and then after that, because it's a chicane and you need to position your car nicely, you want to start taking off a little bit from the input, and you'll see here Lewis will start doing that eventually. You see, he doesn't use the curb on the right either, so he's probably decided that that's the most stable way of getting through here. You can see his braking input down there on the bottom left is starting to be taken off. This is when he approaches somewhere around the 50 meter mark, and that's generally a good time to start turning in. You need to be aware that this AMG GT doesn't have the BOP on, so it can understeer a bit every now and then. and you need to get used to that. It's not your general Group 3 daily race car that you're used to doing in daily races or the FIAs, would be that Nations Cup or Manufacturer Series. So you need to try and get used to this different style of driving, albeit slightly. And as soon as you pass the 50 meter mark, you can see that he's taken off the brake and he's keeping around 50% of the brake input. And he just holds that before he gets to the apex. And the moment he's about to get on the curb, that's when he takes off the brakes to let the car roll through that first part. You can see his left tires are almost perfectly placed. See his inside lefts. This is really where you want to have them. If possible, you can have your left tires on the inside here on the red asphalt again, but you run the risk of like going up this very steep curb, and you can really see how steep it is. And if you go with your left inside tires, there's a good chance that, considering how low this Group 3 car is, it's just going to throw the inside off, and you're not going to be able to really get the car under control for the next try. So yeah, thank you Fabro, and hi Dida, welcome to the stream. You can see you can cut it a bit more, but as a word of advice, I would suggest against it. It's very fast, even if you avoid that. If you're looking for a 10th, which we're going to be doing, a 10th in every corner, we want to be cutting that. But it feels like a lottery sometimes if you don't time it right. And without proper experience, that first part of the chicane can really be troublesome. So you can see Lewis, the moment he touches the apex, that's when he starts applying throttle. He does do it rather smoothly, as we've seen in other laps of his. By the time his car is lined up with the next right-hander, or when the inside tires are kind of going towards the apex, when they're lined up, that's when he puts a bit more throttle on. You can see there he had about full input. But yeah, you have to take off again. You can't flat out this second part. And coming towards the apex, once again, you don't want to cut too much on the right, because it's going to throw your car off balance. But you also want to look out for that gravel as well. Gravel's always going to slow you down no matter how you take it. And in this case, it's just no different. That applies for every track, basically. So going towards the apex, you can see again, he's taken off the acceleration, but not all the way. He's keeping the engine engaged, he's got a bit of throttle on, and he's not killing his apex speed, so he can really get a good exit. And you can see he still hasn't really pushed too much out yet. He's still being a little bit cautious on when he should start accelerating. He's still not on it, and he's still in second gear. And only when he passes this small kind of hill, when you really start to clear the first chicane, that's when he puts a bit more trust into the car. Considering it's an uphill, you can actually do this earlier. So I would suggest to start accelerating, to put a bit more faith in the car when your rear end, or even your front end for that matter, depending on what camera you use, passes this curb on the right, sorry. If you see that disappearing from your screen after you pass the first part of the chicane, that means that you can really start putting your throttle down, and it all comes from experience. And you'll see later on in the lap, Lewis Hamilton unable to drive this track in real life because it is a fictional track made by Polyphony Digital. He does take some very conservative lines, and this is where experience really pays a lot of dividend. If you know the track, like for example when we watched Lewis at, I don't know, Suzuka, for example, he's a lot faster there. He really goes to the limit a lot more than he does around here. But still, being the maestro, he's doing a very good job. So coming on the exit of the first chicane, you can put your left tires onto this asphalt, but you really need to make sure that by the time this asphalt ends on the left and you meet the gravel, you want your left tire back onto the curb. And generally I would try and avoid that. But there are those people that really need to maximize their exit, and they'll have to resort to doing that. But kind of play it safe. Keep your left tires on this part of the curve here, and it'll be very hard for you to spin out. This AMG has a lot of good traction on corner exits, so you can really throw a lot at it, and it will really just absorb it very easily, and you won't have to worry about a thing. On the exit here, if you've gone wide, you also want to make sure that your left tires get back onto the asphalt by the time this curb ends. When you have any contact with the grass or the gravel or any off-track surface that isn't the curb with your outside tires, that you should always consider that you're going to be losing time. So as a rule of thumb, you want to avoid going on grass or any non-circuit surfaces with your outside tires. Yep. Hi Hein, welcome to the stream. Ohayo gozaimasu. O genki desu ka? You doing okay? So, yep. Again, on the exit here, like the first very shallow right, you want to go with your left tires on this mini, let's call this turn 4. You want to go on turn 4 here with as much as you can with the inside tires, but not going on the grass. This again is just taking off speed, and it's losing those crucial tenths, hundredths of a second even, that are going to put you further down the leaderboard if you're really trying to get those top times. Let's come into this next section. I'm going to let this play out now. You can see that this is what I meant, because Lewis probably hasn't experienced this track in real life. He's gone for a slightly more conservative and safer line through this section of corners. He hasn't quite gone as wide as you usually expect, but yeah, a lot of people do that because this is a very easy place to go off, and again, Lewis is really putting the car on the limit of what would be acceptable in real life. So this is kind of a prime example of how you would approach it when you're driving a real racing car, and if this track really did exist in real life. Which I wouldn't know. Maybe it does. You never know. So before he gets to this apex on the right, he actually takes off. We'll just play that again. He's still in 4th, and about 3 or 4 car lengths before he reaches the apex, and when you see that Larini sponsor board on the right, that's when he takes off a little bit, because he knows the car's going to understeer. He knows that if he pushes it too much, there's a very good chance that it's just going to bounce off the curb and onto the gravel on the left, and that's your lap over. So he takes off a bit. It doesn't take it quite all the way off input, I believe. Yeah, you can see he's still got a bit of acceleration on, and the moment he touches that curb and make sure the car is settled down a bit more and he's cleared the apex, that's when you can see he'll start applying a bit more acceleration. So if you're really on it, on a good lap, generally you're going to want to have your throttle off about two car lengths away, maybe a car length if you're being very certain that you're going to make it. But there's no way you can go flat out in this corner unless you had a really bad exit from the first chicane. So you need to always be aware of that. And yeah, coming into this small straight up section, you can see Lewis, he accelerates again, but quite a while after the apex. He makes it to full acceleration input, and you can see this is what I meant. He's not going all the way out to the left, because you can see there's that menacing grass that can threaten your lap in general, and you see he still hasn't braked yet. If you're going on a good lap, you want to make sure that you carry a very wide exit. Not too wide, because if you go something like on this inclined curb, the car's really going to lose its rear end out under braking, and it's not going to listen to you, and it's going to be very hard to catch. So if you want to be safe, you want your left tires to be on this kind of studded piece of the curb where it's got these orange strips, and yeah, that's kind of the limit of where you should be going for, what you should be aiming for. See, Lewis, he still hasn't braked, and now he has actually. So yeah, hi Thananon, nice to see you again. How happy are you with the Nürburgring GP guide? Did it help you out a bit? Managed to get something that, because that was your request, and yeah, I hoped I fulfilled it in some way. So yeah, you can see Lewis starts braking when his car meets the shadow cast by this by the support of this camera stand. As you can see, that there's a camera way up there, all the way up there. There it is. And when his front end meets the shadow, that's when he starts braking. I wouldn't say to rely on that too much, because you will encounter different times of day in Gran Turismo Sport, and that shadow is not always going to be there. So maybe another reference that I would say is good from experience is looking right where, oh, let me get the cursor out. Yep, there it is. Right where the grass ends there, when it meets the gravel. If you brake a little bit before that, about a car length or half a car length earlier, you're still going to be safe. And considering you're going to be on a bit more on the left, it's going to help you really carry a bit more speed and hold the inside right for the next part of the corner. As you can see, Lewis, he starts putting actual proper input after he reaches that point that I mentioned earlier. So he brakes in a straight line. If you're going wider there, you want to probably start turning in already a little bit. And see, he starts turning right after the Larini sponsorship or billboard there on the right ends. That's probably his point of turning in. And he was on the brake at full input for a little while. And after that, you can see he's just taking off, again trail braking. And that's a really important part of this track, where you want to know how to trail brake. If you can trail brake through here and not lose quite as much speed, you're going to set yourself up for a good exit, and that in turn is just going to set you up again and again and again for the upcoming corners. Yeah, you can see here Lewis, he keeps his right tires on the white line. That's good, that's fast, but if you really want to gain as much time as you can, usually I go with my right two tires on this curb. Maybe if you can get your left tires near the white line here, so you have the other side of the car, you have the left side of the car where Lewis's right side is right now. That's pretty much the most you would be able to get out of the corner before maybe hitting this barrier on the right. So you want to cut it a bit more than Lewis has this time, but not too much, because if you cut too much too early, you're going to compromise the exit. You're going to be understeering a lot, and
keep the left tires on the tarmac.
The important thing is just to keep the left tires on the tarmac. That's it in a nutshell. So yeah, once Lewis gets to the apex, he's still past the apex slightly, and then he takes off the brake. If you
remember that he leaves a lot of room for us to improve.
You also have to bear in mind that he does leave a lot of room for us to improve. So this is kind of his way of saying, come on, here's a chance for you to come and beat me. And then after that, he'll probably improve it a lot better and start really pushing the limits of the track. So that's one place where you can improve on Lewis. And after you hit the apex, you want to be off the brakes and start applying acceleration ever so slightly. yeah, once you feel like the car's going to make it, up until that point you just want to steadily increase the throttle input, not all the way. You want to make sure that the left side of the car never goes off this curb on the outside bit of it. Once it gets onto this outside where the studded section is with the orange strips, like this part here, that's really the most you could go, the outside tires. After that you're going to be losing traction and there's a chance you can spin out if you're too eager. So yeah, after you've reached that point you can put a lot of trust in the car and apply a lot more throttle. So that was a particularly longer section, but that was all in one big long flow. So if I stopped it anywhere in between that, I don't think it would have been quite as enjoyable to watch. So I just let it go in that one big sequence. So now we're going to have a look at how that works. See how Lewis approaches it. After you exit that previous corner, you want to pretty much straight line it to the next slight right. So there. And you can see Lewis, he barely touches the curb. He almost hits it. Probably when he was on the apex he touched it a tiny bit. You can cut a bit more. It's not going to really get you much. Again, thousandths are in question, and that does mean a lot when it comes to these top 10s. But even if you go this slightly wider approach, it's fine. Do not use the right. Don't go off track with your inside tires. It's not going to help you with the tire grip, and it's not going to help you get the exit of the next corner better either. So you can see he still hasn't started braking, but I want to make a point that he's staying in fourth. Lewis, as in his previous laps, really drags the gears of the AMG GT3, and considering that this is a downhill and you're carrying a bit more momentum, you can go into fifth gear earlier, and that's going to help you with settling the car down for the next left. If you go into fourth ever so slightly and you just change it somewhere earlier, like where that very slight right was that we just passed, that's kind of a good time to change into fifth. And then you want to slow down in fifth while you're approaching the corner, and then start changing in as soon as you get to the apex. So I'm going to see how Lewis gets it now. He starts braking after the after this kind of orange sector of the barrier, the resting area. And that's when he starts taking off. You can see the right side of this car isn't all the way to the edge of the track, but that's also another place where you can improve. And again, it's just being a bit more cautious, making sure that you don't lose your rear end and ruin the lap. You can see for these fast left and right corners that are coming up, it's crucial that you trail brake. You can see Lewis hasn't even gone over half brake input, and he's already taken off the brake before he's even gotten to the apex, long before he's gone to the apex. So somewhere around 3 car lengths before you reach the apex, that's probably where you want to take off the brake. He still hasn't started applying acceleration just yet. He's letting the car roll through the corner a bit, and just before he reaches the apex, that's when he puts the acceleration back on to have the engine engaged. And for this left here, this is a very tricky corner. It looks simple, but it can catch you out a lot of times if you're not careful. You want your inside tires to be as close as they can to this this inclined part of the curb, the inside, the very edge of it. If you go wide a little bit, you'll see the consequences of that in your laps, and the car's just not going to listen to you. It's going to go off to the right and really hurt your line, and you're not going to be able to get the next corner quite as good as you'd want it to be. You can see little by little, Lewis is just on the inside. He's perfect. This is what you would want to do in general, like in a race. But if you're really going on it for a lap, you want to have your left tires just a tad more to the inside. See, at this point, Lewis has already reached the apex. He's accelerating more. He's still going more and more. You can see he's not gone full throttle just yet. This is because if he went full throttle about a car length before, the car just simply understeer off, and that would be your lap over, because you wouldn't have a good enough entry for the next right. So he's still there, still keeping it on about half, and as soon as he gets close to this asphalt on the right, that's when he starts applying a bit more throttle. You see he's actually got into full input by the time he reaches there. You can see he's turning a bit to the left now to be able to get a better entry. And the moment he touches this curve on the right, that's when he takes off in 4th gear. This keeps him, it's not all the way off, but this allows for a bit more rotation in the car. And again, like the previous left, you really want to have your right side of the car on the inside of that curb. And you can see this is where Lewis does it. This is where he starts going for it. This is how you want to get the previous one. Just look at how much the tires bend there. You can see how much he's going on the limit of those Michelins. And yeah, this is exactly how you want to place your car. Maybe if you compromise a bit of the exit on the first left that was behind us, so somewhere in the very foreground of this shot, if you get a slightly worse exit and go wider, sorry, you keep it more to the left, so you can get a much wider entry on this one. The moment you carry more speed through this part of the track, that's going to pay a lot of dividend coming through this fast left that follows, going over there, passing the downhill sector and coming into the very sharp hairpin. You'll notice that you'll gain about a tenth or two if you get it that way. This way it's still fine how Lewis got it, but it means that you have to be a bit more cautious on this right one. So he's always got throttle on, always pretty engaged. And the moment he straightens up and is about somewhere in the middle of the track, that's when he pushes. And yeah, you want to start turning in when you reach this left curb here. Once again, you want the left tires on the inside of the curb, just clipping the inside, like you can see, like Lewis has done. Very well driven. And if you get this right, you don't have to take off. That's the important thing. If you don't need to take off on this left, and you don't have to save it coming on the exit of this one, that means you've got into the corner very nicely. Or you're going a little bit slow. But if you're able to go at proper pace through here and not have to take off, that means you're doing something right. So on the exit here, you should avoid at all costs this orange asphalt here. The car doesn't seem to take it quite as nicely as the previous corners, and it loses a lot of balance, and it feels like it's actually on the gravel at one point. And although it isn't, you get that feeling that you're going to be losing speed. So try and keep the right hand of the car on the curb, not on the asphalt, on the curb. Once again, if you're able to do this and not have to take off, that means that you're doing very well on your lap so far. You want to get back on the track by the time this curb ends on the right, so you don't meet the gravel and even possibly the grass. On this very how do you say, light left, you can use the curb. Don't cut too much, because once again you're going to be using the grass or the gravel on the left. That's going to cut off some of your top speed. You can see Lewis, he just touches it, albeit slightly, and you can see it's throwing up some leaves, a little bit of dust. He's done that perfectly. It may look like when you zoom in there, of course, it looks like a lot. See those little blades of grass also in the air. But it looks like a lot, but it actually isn't. That small bit of time that he spent on the grass actually didn't mean any significant speed loss. So you're fine. But if you want to be perfect, you may want to avoid that. It's coming down into this hairpin. Okay, so oh, sorry. Apologies, I didn't have my finger on the start-stop button. Okay, so Lewis brakes after the 150 meter board. Somewhere when his rear end of the car starts, really meets the curb properly. And yeah, there's nothing really to say about it. That's a good reference. Just after the 150 meter mark. You don't want to have your car too much on the left on the braking. Excuse me. Because it's going to get unsettled quite a bit. And when the car gets unsettled, it's not going to have a great contact with the road. And when that happens, you're not going to have the full potential of the brakes, meaning that your braking distance is going to be longer. And in turn, that's going to mean you're going to have a very good chance of potentially missing the corner as well. Excuse me. So you want to brake in a straight line. Full brake input, as you can see there by Lewis. So he's still approaching the corner, and somewhere between the 150 meter board, that's when you want to start turning in a little bit. You can see his input is going to the right slightly. Still going right, putting more and more into the wheel, and he's actually accelerating and braking at the same time. So I haven't seen this yet by Lewis. This is interesting. And the moment he puts it on, that's the moment he takes it off. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. That's probably his way of getting it. I haven't gotten it like that ever, I'd say, in experience. But it's a good chance it's faster. It gets the revs back up only slightly, and it really promotes that engine braking that gets the front end kind of to snap in better. So yeah, maybe it's worth something. We'll give it a try when we drive. You want to start taking off the brake, if only slightly, at the 50 meter board when you reach that. By then you've already gotten a bit of a turn in there. You can see Lewis, he's still staying firmly on the brakes. It's probably because he braked a little bit later this time, but you can see he's now taking off slightly as he approaches the apex. Ever so slightly. And he's still on the brakes well into the corner. Still on the apex. Still braking, and it's very important that you can trail brake through here. If you can't trail brake, you're not going to be carrying enough speed. And one, your rear end's going to be able to spin out easier because you're going slower. And two, you're just simply not going fast enough. The front tires will be locked up a bit more. Front grip will be a little bit less than you would want it to be, and that's going to kill your exit. You would have gotten the entry nicely, but you would have lost a lot of time having to save the exit and really put the car on the edge. And you can see that about a car length after Lewis passed the hairpin, the apex of the hairpin, that's when he's taken off the brakes. And till then, after that, you just want to go slightly really modulate the throttle a lot. Be very smooth in how much you put in. And you really want to start investing in some very serious throttle input by the time you reach that curb on the left. Well, maybe a little bit before that, but when you feel like the car's getting close to this start of the curb, that's when you know that you're kind of safe and you can really push a lot harder on the acceleration. There are two lines through this corner. You can go like Lewis has and take a wider approach. This means you're carrying more speed, or you can wait a bit after you've broken and let the car kind of hug the inside right. This is going to be a shorter line. You're going to risk losing some traction and potentially the rear end if you're not careful. But if you can master that inside, if you can hold that inside line, that can be faster if you try. You can see Lewis is still kind of being a bit cautious on the acceleration, not going all the way, and by the time he's starting to get onto the curb, that's when he pushes. If you can do this exit without having to take off the throttle again, that means that you've gotten the corner very nicely indeed. So yeah, you can see that Lewis, he's keeping his left tires on the curb. I would very much advise you against carrying too much of the curb with your left tires, because you can see there's that menacing wall. There's a bit of grass there, so you can either spin out, or two, you could either hit the wall. We never know, even three, you may hit the wall and spin out at the same time, and it's not going to help your exit speed at all. And you really want to have a good exit speed for this bus stop chicane. So yeah, bus stop chicane. Basically flat out through the first right hander. You want to make sure that your right tires are just on the inside of the curb, and maybe on the bit of orange asphalt, but you don't want it to hit the barrier on the right. It's gonna scrape a lot of speed off, and it's gonna throw you to the left, just ruin the line that you would want to have to optimize the lap. See there, he still hasn't touched the wall, which is good. And you saw that for a moment, his car actually got a bit unstable. That's fine. The car rightens itself straight away, so you don't have to worry about it one bit. You just need to make sure that you get this next left fine. And same deal here. You want to make sure your left tires go on the inside of the curb, maybe even on the orange patch of asphalt, but I wouldn't push my luck too much. So yeah, after you've passed the curb, you want to take off slightly. Generally with BOP on, you could go flat out through this section, but you want to take off. You can see that Lewis, he's taken off. He's about half throttle input, and look at that. Like, look at how close he is. I can't even get close enough to, but look at that. That's close. Not many people ever really get that close to the barrier, even if they tried. So, unless they hit the wall, of course. So you want to make sure that you come close here, but you don't hit it. If you hit it, it's going to throw the car off, and there's a good chance that you're going to hit the barrier in the second part of the bus stop chicane. See, he's still keeping the acceleration off. Still off, and he's taken off even more now at this point. Now he's reaching this last part of the bus stop chicane. And now on this left here, it's very important that you don't touch the left barrier here with the left side of the car. If you can just miss that, the car will kind of settle down into the orange patch of asphalt here, or it will kind of almost jump over it. Sorry, the second option actually, and you won't hit the wall, but you won't lose too much stability, and it won't throw your car off to the right into the second half of the death chicane. So yeah, just go a little bit like that, You can see he's accelerating more, being a bit more confident. And you want, by the time you reach in the second part, you want to start accelerating with full throttle. You can see the right hand of the car just misses the barrier again. And yeah, that's it in a nutshell. You want to push out. You want to make sure you don't hit the barrier on the left, because that's going to lose a lot of time. You want to hold the left line so you can gain time by shortening the distance that you have to cover. Now for the last corner. Fast part of the chicane. Excuse me. So, Lewis brakes in between the 150 and 100 meter board, somewhere around there. Kind of see a different change in texture of the track, and it's kind of a good cue to start braking. Generally, when you're around the 125 meters, you want to apply the brakes. So, going through there, he's full input. And by the time he reaches the 50 meter board, he's started turning in a bit more seriously towards the apex, and has started taking off the brakes, which indicates he's trail braking once again. So you want to hold the inside. So it's a fairly late apex. It's kind of later through the corner. And once again, like some of the other parts of this track, you want to really put your car on the right. This time you want to be patient. When you accelerate after you pass the apex, you want to have the acceleration on slightly, not too much. But you want to be careful and be very patient on the exit here. Once you see the curb start on the left, that's when you accelerate. And after that, it's pretty much a sprint to the finish line. So yeah, you can go on the left part here. I would advise against it. You're just going to lose stability and scroll off a bit of speed. Yeah. So that was Lewis's lap. That was a deeper, in-depth analysis of what he did. Now we're gonna do what we can to get onto the top 10 leaderboard and possibly even be first in the world. See if we can beat him on our first try. Great balance, somewhere about +1. It's not good. That was okay. See, we beat our time, and we beat Lewis.
No way. How did you do that?
Yeah, no problem, Andrew. Always at your service. So we got a 36.5. We need to get a 35.9 to just be on the top 10. So we can definitely find a lot more speed. I'm going to try and do that now. See, they're almost spun out. What I meant about sacrificing that first part of this fast chicane so that you can carry a bit more speed. That was decent. It looked a bit sketchy, but that was okay. So 36.2.
No way. How did you do that?
Yeah, watch your lap, Lewis. Learn something from it. So we're slowly getting there. We just need to find 3 more tenths and we're on the top 10. Looking fine so far. Yeah, that was terrible. We went a bit slower through that chicane now, but it's fine.
No
Should have
way.
changed into 5th.
How did you do that?
So you can see we're improving bit by bit. There's definitely a lot more time in it though. It's good that we haven't had any troubles through the bus stop to now. It's a good sign. A lot of time in that previous lap through that section. Better exit, we started to catch up slightly towards our best time. Earlier in 3rd for that more traction. Oof. Got a bit disorientated. We've lost out. See if we can get something back if we brake late now. Not much. much at all. We actually lost.
No way. How did you do that?
So you need to kind of put faith in yourself that you can make it to the corner. You really need to brake very late with this car if you want to gain something. Oh, too much speed. And that's a lap done. Yeah, thanks PGO. PGO Pog, sorry. We'll get there. Ooh, we didn't line it up quite so good. It's fine for now. Oh my word, that was bad. Yeah, we'll
No
get there,
way.
PG.
How did you do that?
We'll do it. Just need a bit more time. Ah. Yep, too eager on the acceleration. No. Didn't turn in early enough. Got another 5 goes. Right. Missing the first left. That's what where we're losing. No. So I just couldn't see the road in front. Right. So yeah, 3 more tries and we'll stop. Yeah. Doesn't look like we're going to be doing it now. We'll see. No. So we didn't manage to get into the top 10. We can definitely do it. Like 100% we can do it. It's just that we haven't managed to get everything to line up just yet. So 9th and 5th is even possible. But yeah, we got close. 36.072 is not bad. There's a lot to improve for sure. I can never really get the first chicane to work how I want it to. You can see I'm always losing to my ghost. And that one time that I got it, it was just perfect. So now that's going to be it for now. We'll end it there. And yeah, from now on we're just going to continue going through the order. So we did Dragon Trail Seaside. Now we're going to do, not now, the next part we're going to do Maggiore. Then we've done all the previous tracks. We're going to do Mount Panorama, Interlagos, and for the final we're going to do the Sauber C9 at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. That's going to be a very, very interesting one. Not to mention these other ones that I still haven't done yet. Yeah, I'm going to start ending it there, guys. Thank you for joining. We'll see what car we get now. Ooh, 20 million? Maybe. Group 2 it still isn't bad. I hope that analysis of Lewis's lap helped a bit. Really look out for late braking. If you can do that, you're going to be gaining a lot on your times. If you can brake very late and make it work. And yeah, you want to huggle a lot of the curb most of the time. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope this helped you, or if anything gave you a suggestion. And yeah, catch you guys soon. Catch you in the next part of the Lewis Hamilton Time Trial Series. Thank you for the support and have a good one. Until next time, driving with the best.